There was a decade where Chrysler almost let this name die quietly, and the fact that it did not is stranger than most people realize. For years, the 300C sat in showrooms as an afterthought, a name enthusiasts still respected, but the company itself seemed unsure what to do with. And then somewhere inside a design studio, that decision reversed itself completely. I am here with the car culture, where we care less about what a press release says a car is, and more about what it actually feels like to live with one. And this next generation 300C is one of the more interesting reversals we have covered in a long time. Because buried inside its return is a decision about what kind of engine belongs under that long hood. One that breaks from what every rumor and every leaked spec sheet assumed Chrysler would do, and we are going to walk through exactly why they made that call. The proportions here are the first thing that register, long before you think about what is happening mechanically. This is a big American sedan in the truest sense, a hood that stretches out ahead of you with real presence, a stance that sits low and wide over the wheels rather than perched on top of them, and a greenhouse that tapers back with a fastback urgency that the old car only hinted at. The grille is upright and commanding without tipping into aggression, a face that reads as confident rather than angry, and the vertical LED signature running through the headlamps gives it a nighttime identity that photographs like jewelry rather than hardware. Chrysler's designers clearly understood that this nameplate has always been about a certain kind of American formality, the sedan you arrive in rather than the one you sneak away in, and every line down that lengthy flank reinforces that intention. The character line running from the front fender through the rear door is not decorative. It is doing the work of visually shortening a car that is otherwise quite large, and it succeeds so well that you do not register the actual size until you are standing directly beside it. Open the door and it moves with a weight that immediately tells you this is not a lightweight aluminum exercise. It closes with a single, dense thud, the sound of a car built to insulate you rather than to save every possible ounce. Slide into the seat, and the first sensation is leather that has been treated rather than simply installed. A warm, slightly waxy scent that settles into the cabin within seconds of the door shutting. The seating position sits you upright and commanding rather than reclined and aggressive, appropriate for a car meant to be driven for hours rather than minutes at a time. The steering wheel is thick-rimmed but not oversized, wrapped in leather that has a slight tack to it under your palms, and the diamond-quilted stitching across the seats and door panels catches ambient light in a way that feels handcrafted rather than mass-produced. Cabin silence at rest is remarkable, achieved through triple-sealed door glass and acoustic laminate windshield glass, and it is the kind of quiet that makes you lower your own voice the first time you speak inside it. The center display sits integrated into the dash rather than bolted on top, framed by real trim rather than plastic pretending to be metal, and the analog-styled gauges glow with a calm blue that never feels clinical. Reach for the start button, and the engine does not announce itself with drama, because that was never the point of this car. It settles into a low, barely perceptible idle, a hum you feel through the seat cushion rather than hear through the doors. Chrysler has committed to a twin-turbocharged V6 here, a decision that surprised more than a few enthusiasts who assumed the Hemi V8 would inevitably return with the nameplate's revival. Internally, engineers reportedly pushed hard for exactly that, a modern supercharged V8 to satisfy the emotional expectation the 300C name carries from its muscle-adjacent history. But the final call landed on a smoother, more refined six-cylinder architecture, targeting somewhere around 420 horsepower, paired to torque delivery that arrives early and stays remarkably flat across the rev range. It is the kind of decision that will frustrate purists who wanted a thunderous V8 soundtrack and reward everyone who actually intends to drive this car 800 miles in a single day without their ears ringing by the time they arrive. Acceleration builds with a hushed, turbine-like smoothness rather than a violent shove, the exhaust notes staying refined and distant even under hard throttle, more baritone hum than aggressive bark. Gear shifts through the 8-speed automatic arrive almost imperceptibly, felt as a subtle shift in momentum rather than heard as a mechanical event. At sustained highway speed, cabin isolation becomes the story. Wind noise essentially engineered out of existence and road texture filtered into something more like suggestion than sensation. Push the car harder into a canyon road and the personality changes. The exhaust opening slightly under load, the note deepenings into something with genuine character, proof that refinement was the priority, without abandoning the idea that this car should still feel alive when asked to. The first moments behind the wheel confirm what the proportions promised. Steering is light at parking speeds and firms up progressively as velocity builds, communicating enough road information to feel connected without ever feeling nervous or twitchy. Brake pedal travel is long and progressive rather than sharp. Exactly what you want in a car this size meant for confident, unhurried stops rather than track day theatrics. The adaptive suspension soaks up broken pavement with an almost liquid quality. The chassis staying flat through sweeping highway curves while never punishing your spine over expansion joints. Seat support holds you through gentle direction changes without the bolstering of a sports coupe, because Chrysler understood correctly that the person buying this car values comfort during a 4-hour drive over lateral grip during a lap time. The overall sensation in those first few miles is one of effortless confidence. A car that makes covering distance feel like the easiest thing in the world. Technology here works quietly in the background rather than demanding your attention. Adaptive cruise and lane centering handle highway monotony without feeling intrusive. Over-the-air updates keep the infotainment current without a dealership visit. And a driver monitoring system watches for fatigue on long hauls and nudges gently rather than alarms aggressively. None of it feels like it is trying to replace the driver. It feels like it is trying to make the driver's life easier during the parts of driving that were never enjoyable to begin with. Pricing is expected to land in the neighborhood of $65,000 for a well-equipped example, climbing toward the low 70s for the fully loaded configuration, numbers that place this car firmly against German and Japanese full-size luxury sedans rather than against muscle car pricing. What you are actually paying for is harder to quantify than the number itself. You are paying for a genuinely American interpretation of luxury, one built on presence and comfort rather than badge prestige, and for the resurrection of a nameplate that carries real emotional weight for anyone who remembers what the original 300C meant to sedans when it first arrived. That is worth something money alone cannot fully explain. This is not a segment disruptor chasing German engineering benchmarks, and it is not a modern muscle icon chasing quarter-mile numbers either. This is a legacy revival that understood its own identity well enough to grow into a genuine American luxury flagship, distinctly its own thing in a market that increasingly treats every full-size sedan the same. The person this car was built for is not chasing lap times or bragging rights. They are someone who values arriving somewhere composed rather than exhausted, who appreciates a long hood and real road presence, who wants a car that feels substantial without feeling ostentatious, someone whose relationship with driving is about command and comfort rather than adrenaline. It is not without its trade-offs. The turbocharged V6 will disappoint anyone who wanted the emotional theater of a V8 exhaust note. And the car's size means tight urban parking requires genuine attention rather than confidence. Chrysler made that choice anyway, betting that refinement matters more than nostalgia to the people actually signing the lease. Picture this 300C on a long coastal highway at golden hour, windows up, cabin silent, the engine barely working as the miles disappear behind you. That is where this car finds its purpose, not on a racetrack, but on the open road where comfort and command matter more than lap times. Before we wrap up, here is something worth debating honestly in the comments. Should Chrysler have brought back a proper V8 to honor this nameplate's muscle car reputation? Or was choosing refinement and efficiency over raw displacement smarter long-term decision? There are real arguments on both sides, and I would genuinely like to know where you land. If stories like this one matter to you, the car culture is where we keep telling them. This is not a car trying to be fast. This is a car that never needed to be.